At 2:47 a.m., bullets shatter the emergency room windows of Blackwater General Hospital, and Nurse Nia Vale collapses in a pool of blood and broken glass. The gunmen don't know they just shot the secret wife of June Cade, the most feared man in Blackwater's underworld. This is the story of how a woman who refused to be afraid fell in love with a man the entire city feared, and how that love became a war neither of them expected. If you want to see how far this story goes, hit that like button, drop a comment with your city, and stay with me until the end. The first time Nia Vale saw June Cade, he was bleeding all over her emergency room floor. It was a Tuesday night, 3 months before the shooting, and the ER was operating on fumes and exhausted staff. Nia had just finished stitching up a kid who'd gotten glassed in a bar fight when the double doors slammed open and 4 men in black suits carried in a fifth. Tall, lean, unconscious, with blood soaking through his white shirt like spilled wine. "Gunshot wound," the lead bodyguard said flatly. No explanation, no insurance card, just a man bleeding and a tone that suggested questions would not be welcome. Nia looked up from her clipboard, met the bodyguard's eyes, and said, "Trauma Bay 2, move." She didn't ask who he was. In Blackwater, you learned fast that some questions got you killed. The man on the gurney had a bullet lodged 3 inches below his collarbone, clean entry, no exit wound. Nia worked quickly, cutting away his shirt, prepping the site, barking orders at the nurse assisting her. The bodyguards stood like statues along the wall, hands folded, eyes locked on her every move. "You need to wait outside," Nia said without looking up. "We stay," the lead guard replied. "Then stay quiet." She irrigated the wound, numbed the area, and went in with forceps. The man on the table didn't so much as flinch. His face was carved from stone. Sharp jaw, dark eyes half open now, watching her with an unsettling steadiness. Most people in pain looked away. He stared right at her. "You do this a lot?" His voice was low, rough around the edges. "Save people who show up with bullet holes and no explanation? Yeah, occupational hazard." Nia didn't slow down. "You do this a lot? Get shot? Occupational hazard." She almost smiled. Almost. The bullet came out clean. Nia stitched him up with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times, wrapped the wound, and stepped back. "You're lucky. Another inch and we'd be having a very different conversation." June sat up slowly, testing the pull of the stitches. His gaze stayed on her face. "What's your name?" "Nurse." "Your real name? The one that's none of your business." One of the bodyguards shifted, a barely perceptible movement, but Nia caught it. June raised a hand, "Don't," and the man froze. "I like you," June said. "Great, that'll be $8,000. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. "Send the bill to my office." "Your office doesn't exist as far as this hospital's concerned. Cash or card?" June stood, moving like a man who'd been shot before and knew how to navigate the pain. He reached into his jacket with his good arm, pulled out a wallet, and handed her a black card. No name on it, just numbers. Nia took it, swiped it, and handed it back. "Change your bandages every 12 hours. If it gets infected, come back. If it doesn't, don't." "What if I want to come back anyway?" She met his eyes. "Then you're wasting your time and mine." June studied her for a long moment, and Nia felt the weight of it. Not threatening exactly, but intense. Like he was memorizing her face, cataloging every detail. "We'll see," he said finally. Then he walked out, bodyguards trailing behind him like shadows, and Nia was left standing in a room that smelled like antiseptic, and something darker she couldn't name. She didn't know it yet, but that was the moment her life stopped being hers. June came back 3 days later. Not because of an infection, not because he needed medical attention. He came back because he decided he wanted to see her again, and June Cade was not a man who denied himself anything. Nia was restocking supplies in the med room when he appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame like he had all the time in the world. No bodyguards this time. Just him, wearing a dark sweater and an expression that was hard to read. "Your wound infected?" she asked without turning around. "No." "Then you're in the wrong place." "I don't think I am." Nia turned, crossed her arms. "What do you want?" "Coffee. There's a vending machine down the hall." "With you?" She laughed, sharp and incredulous. You're serious. I don't joke. I can tell. Nia shook her head. Look, I don't know who you are. Yes, you do. She stopped. Because he was right. She did know. Everyone in Blackwater knew June Cade, even if they'd never seen his face. He was the name people whispered when they talked about power, control, and what happened to those who crossed the wrong lines. He owned half the city's underground operations: gambling, protection, smuggling. He was untouchable, unreachable, and apparently standing in her supply room asking her to coffee. I'm not interested, Nia said. Why not? Because I've seen what happens to people in your world, and I'm not interested in becoming a cautionary tale. June didn't move, didn't argue, just watched her with those dark, unreadable eyes. 1 hour, public place. You walk away anytime you want. Why me? Because you're the first person in 5 years who's looked at me like I'm just a man. The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. Nia hesitated, and in that hesitation, June saw the crack in her armor. 1 hour, he repeated. Against every instinct screaming at her to say no, Nia heard herself say, 1 hour, and if you're late, I'm gone. I'm never late. He wasn't. They met at a diner 6 blocks from the hospital, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning. June was already there when she arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall. Old habit, she guessed. Nia slid into the seat across from him. This is your idea of coffee? You said public place. Didn't say it had to be nice. Fair enough. A waitress came over, poured 2 cups without asking, and disappeared. June watched Nia add cream and sugar, watched her take a sip, watched her like he was studying a puzzle he wanted to solve. You're staring, Nia said. You're interesting. I'm a nurse. You're more than that. You don't know me. Not yet. Nia set her cup down. Why are you doing this? Doing what? This. Showing up. Asking me out. You could have anyone. I don't want anyone. June leaned forward, elbows on the table. I want someone who isn't afraid of me. I am afraid of you. No, you're not. You're cautious. That's different. He was right, and that annoyed her. Nia looked out the window, watched the rain starting to streak down the glass. You know this can't go anywhere, right? You and me. We're from different worlds. Same city. Not the same life. Maybe that's the point. Nia turned back to him. What do you want from me, June? He didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quieter, almost careful. I want to know what it's like to be around someone who doesn't want something from me, who doesn't need me to be dangerous or powerful or useful. I want to sit in a shitty diner and drink bad coffee and not have to think about who I am for 1 goddamn hour. The vulnerability in his words hit her harder than she expected. This was not the man people whispered about in dark corners. This was someone tired, lonely, and human in a way that made her chest tighten. 1 hour, Nia said quietly. June's mouth curved just slightly. 1 hour. They talked. Not about his work, not about her job. They talked about small things. Books neither of them had time to read, places they'd never been, the way the city looked at 3 a.m. when the streets finally went quiet. June asked questions and actually listened to the answers. Nia found herself relaxing, laughing at something dry and unexpected he said, and realizing with a strange jolt that she liked him. Not the myth, not the reputation. The man sitting across from her, drinking terrible coffee and looking at her like she was the most fascinating thing in the room. When the hour was up, June walked her back to the hospital. They stopped outside the employee entrance, rain falling in a light mist around them. Thank you, June said. For what? For giving me an hour. Nia smiled despite herself. You're welcome. She turned to go, but June's voice stopped her. Nia. She looked back. I'd like another hour. Tomorrow. Same place. She should have said no. Should have walked away, gone back to her safe, predictable life, and forgotten about the dangerous man who made her feel like maybe safe and predictable wasn't enough. Instead, she said, okay. Meet. Tomorrow became the next day. The next day became the next week. Coffee at the diner became walks through the city, late-night conversations on her apartment steps, dinners at places June knew the owner would keep their mouths shut. Nia learned things about him in pieces, that he'd grown up in Blackwater's worst neighborhood, raised by a single mother who died when he was 16, that he'd built his empire from nothing, through intelligence and ruthlessness and a willingness to do what others wouldn't, that he had a younger brother, Eli, who worked in his organization and was the only family he had left. June learned things about her too, that she'd put herself through nursing school while working 2 jobs, that her parents had died in a car accident when she was 23, leaving her with debt and grief she'd carried alone, that she stayed in Blackwater because someone had to take care of the people the system forgot. They were both orphans, both survivors, both shaped by loss in ways that made them harder, sharper, lonelier than they wanted to admit. "I don't let people in," June told her one night, standing outside her building at 2 a.m. because neither of them wanted to say goodnight. "I noticed," Nia replied. "I'm letting you in." "I know. That scares me." She reached out, touched his hand. "Scares me too." June's fingers closed around hers, and for a moment they just stood there. 2 people who'd built walls so high they'd forgotten what it felt like to let someone climb over. "I'm not good for you," June said quietly. "Probably not. You should walk away." "Probably. But you're not going to." Nia looked up at him, rain starting to fall again, cold and relentless. "No, I'm not." June kissed her then, slow and deliberate, like he was memorizing the taste of her mouth, the feel of her body against his. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. "This is going to get complicated," he murmured. "I know. People are going to come after you because of me. I know that too. And you're still staying." "Yeah." Nia's hand slid up to his jaw, thumb brushing over the rough stubble there. "I'm still staying." The first real test came a month later. Nia was leaving the hospital after a double shift when a black SUV pulled up beside her. The back window rolled down, and a man she didn't recognize leaned out. "Miss Vale, get in." "I don't think so." "It's not a request." 2 more men stepped out of the vehicle. Not June's people. She knew his crew by now. These were someone else's. Nia's heart kicked into overdrive, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not getting in the car. If you want to talk, we talk here." The man smiled, cold and empty. "Mr. Cade's made some enemies. Those enemies know about you. They want you to deliver a message." "I'm not a messenger." "You are now." He held up a phone, showed her a photo. June, leaving a building downtown, crosshairs superimposed over his chest. "Tell him if he doesn't back off the waterfront deal, the next bullet finds him. And maybe finds you too." Nia's stomach turned, but she didn't let it show. "I'll tell him." "Smart girl." The men got back in the SUV and drove off, leaving her standing on the sidewalk, shaking and furious and terrified all at once. She called June. He answered on the first ring. "Nia. We need to talk. Now." 20 minutes later, she was in his car, parked in a lot overlooking the river. June listened without interrupting as she told him what happened, and with every word his expression grew colder. "They threatened you," he said when she finished. "They threatened both of us." "No, they threatened you to get to me." June's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's different." "June, I'll handle it." "Handle it how?" He didn't answer, and that silence said everything. "No," Nia said sharply. "You're not going to war over this. They came after you. They came after us. And if you retaliate, it'll just get worse." She grabbed his arm, forced him to look at her. "I knew what I was getting into. I knew there'd be risks. But I need you to promise me you won't do anything stupid. Protecting you isn't stupid. Starting a war is." June stared at her, jaw tight, conflict written all over his face. Finally, he exhaled. "I'll pull back on the waterfront deal, for now." "Thank you. But if they come near you again..." "I know." Nia's voice softened. "I know." He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair, and held on like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. And maybe she was. Things were quiet for a few weeks. Too quiet. June kept his distance from the waterfront deal, his enemies backed off, and Nia went back to her shifts at the hospital. But the threat lingered in the back of her mind, a constant low hum of anxiety she couldn't shake. Then Eli died. June's younger brother, shot in a deal gone bad. No warning, no chance to say goodbye, just a phone call in the middle of the night, and a brother who'd never come home. Nia found June at his penthouse, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the city like he was looking for something that didn't exist anymore. "June," she said quietly. He didn't turn. "You shouldn't be here. Where else would I be? Somewhere safe? Away from me." Nia walked over, stood beside him. "I'm not going anywhere." He was 26. June's voice was flat, empty. He had his whole life ahead of him. "I know. I told him to get out. Go to college. Start over. Be something other than this." June's hand gestured vaguely at the city below. "He wouldn't listen. He loved you. And now he's dead because of it." Nia didn't have words for that, didn't have anything that would make it better, so she just reached out, took his hand, and held on. June's composure cracked. Not much, just enough. His fingers tightened around hers, and his breath hitched, and for a moment, the man who ruled Blackwater's underworld was just someone grieving a loss too big to carry alone. "I don't know how to do this without him," June said quietly. "You do it one day at a time." "I don't want to." "I know, but you will, because that's who you are." He finally looked at her, eyes red-rimmed and raw. "Why are you still here?" "Because I love you." The words hung in the air between them, too big and too true to take back. June stared at her. "You shouldn't." Too late. He kissed her then, desperate and hungry and full of grief that needed somewhere to go. Nia kissed him back, hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer, anchoring him to something that wasn't loss and rage and pain. They ended up on the floor, rain hammering against the windows, clothes discarded in a trail across the room. It wasn't gentle, it was raw and messy and real, two people clinging to each other in the wreckage of a night that had torn them both open. Afterward, they lay tangled together, June's head on her chest, her fingers running through his hair. "I meant it," Nia whispered. "I love you." June's arm tightened around her waist. "I love you too." It was the first time he'd said it, maybe the first time he'd ever said it to anyone. And in that moment, lying on the cold floor of his penthouse, with the rain falling outside and the city lights blurring through the windows, Nia knew there was no going back. The fallout from Eli's death was immediate and brutal. June went after the people responsible with surgical precision. No theatrics, no mercy. Just cold, calculated retaliation that dismantled an entire operation in less than a week. Nia watched him pull away, retreat into the part of himself that was all edges and violence and control. She tried to reach him, but he was somewhere she couldn't follow. "You're shutting me out," she said one night. "I'm protecting you." "By pushing me away? By making sure what happened to Eli doesn't happen to you." "That's not your choice to make." June's eyes were hard. "Yes, it is." "No, it's not." Nia stepped closer, refusing to back down. "You don't get to decide I'm safer without you. I'm an adult. I knew the risks. I stayed anyway." "You shouldn't have." "But I did." Her voice shook, anger and love and frustration bleeding through. "I stayed because I love you, and I'm not leaving just because things got hard. So stop trying to push me away and let me in." June looked at her for a long time, something shifting behind his eyes. Then he crossed the space between them, cupped her face in his hands, and kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "I don't deserve you," he murmured against her mouth. "Probably not, but I'm keeping you anyway." "Good." He pulled back, forehead against hers. "This life, my life, it's dangerous. It's never going to be safe." "I don't need safe, I need you." "Naya, I mean it. I don't care about the danger or the violence or the enemies. I care about you, the man you are when it's just us. The man who drinks bad coffee and talks about books he'll never read and holds me like I'm the only thing that matters." Her hands gripped his shirt. "That's the man I love, and I'm not walking away from him." June closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there was something raw and unguarded there. "Okay. Okay. Okay. You stay. We figure this out together." Nia smiled, relief flooding through her. "Together." "Together," June echoed. And for the first time since Eli died, the weight on his shoulders didn't feel quite so crushing. 2 weeks later, June proposed. Not with a grand gesture or a public display, just the two of them in her apartment, rain tapping against the windows, takeout containers scattered across the coffee table. "Marry me," he said. Nia looked up from her noodles. "What? Marry me." June set down his food, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a small black box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light. "I know it's fast, I know it's complicated, but I want you in my life, legally, permanently, in every way that matters." "June, I'm not asking because I think it'll keep you safer, though it might. I'm asking because I love you, and I don't want to wait. I've spent my whole life being patient, strategic, careful. With you, I don't want to be any of those things. I just want to be yours." Nia's throat tightened. "This is insane." "I know. People are going to lose their minds. Let them. We've only been together a few months. I don't care." She looked at him, this dangerous, complicated, impossible man who'd somehow become the most important person in her world, and realized she didn't care either. "Yes," she said. June blinked. "Yes?" "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto her finger, pulled her into his lap, and kissed her until they were both breathless and laughing and tangled up in each other. They got married a week later. No guests, no ceremony. Just a courthouse, a judge, and two people who decided love was worth the risk. When Nia signed her name on the marriage certificate, she felt the weight of it, the finality, the commitment, the knowledge that her life was now permanently intertwined with a man the world feared. But when June took her hand and smiled at her like she'd just given him the world, she knew she'd made the right choice. They left the courthouse as husband and wife, and for one brief, perfect moment, everything felt possible. Then the world found out, and everything went to hell. The photograph appeared on the front page of the Blackwater Tribune 3 days after the wedding. June and Nia leaving the courthouse, her hand in his, the marriage certificate visible in the background. The headline read, "Blackwater's most feared crime lord marries local nurse." Beneath it, a smaller caption, "Nia Vale, 29, works at Blackwater General Hospital Emergency Department." Nia saw it when she walked into the break room at 6 a.m. for her shift. Every nurse, every doctor, every orderly, they all had the paper open. The room went silent when she entered. Dr. Chen, the attending physician she'd worked with for 3 years, looked up from his coffee. His face was carefully blank. "Nia, my office. Now." She followed him down the hall, past colleagues who suddenly found the floor very interesting. Chen closed the door behind them, and for a long moment, he just stood there, hands on his hips, shaking his head. "Tell me it's not true," he said finally. "It's true." "Jesus Christ, Nia. June Cade? You married June Cade?" "I did." "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Chen's voice rose. "This hospital has a reputation. We serve everyone, no questions asked. That only works because we stay neutral. And now one of our nurses is married to the man half this city's criminals either work for or run from? My personal life is my business. Not when it affects this hospital. Not when patients are going to wonder if they're safe here. Not when donors start asking questions." Chen rubbed his face. "The board's already called an emergency meeting." Nia's stomach dropped. "When?" "This afternoon, and Nia..." He met her eyes, and there was something like sympathy there beneath the frustration. "I'd start looking for another job." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she was a damn good nurse, that who she married didn't change that. But the look on his face told her it wouldn't matter. "Can I finish my shift?" she asked quietly. "Yeah, finish your shift." Nia walked out of his office and went back to work. She checked vitals, administered medications, comforted a crying child with a broken arm. She did her job the same way she always had, but the whispers followed her, the stares, the sudden silences when she entered a room. At noon, her phone buzzed. A text from June. "Heard about the paper. You okay?" She typed back. "Been better. Talk tonight." His response came immediately. "I'll fix this." Nia closed her eyes. That was exactly what she was afraid of. The board meeting happened at 4. Nia wasn't invited, but Dr. Chen called her afterward. "They want you to take a leave of absence," he said, voice tight. "Indefinite. Paid, for now. But Nia, between you and me, they're looking for a reason to let you go." "I haven't done anything wrong." "I know, but they're scared. And scared people make stupid decisions. He paused. I'm sorry. Nia hung up and sat in her car in the parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the anger and humiliation burning in her chest. She'd worked so hard to get here, put herself through school, paid off debt, built a career she was proud of. And now it was crumbling because she'd fallen in love with the wrong man. Except he wasn't wrong. He was just dangerous. She drove to June's penthouse, let herself in with the key he'd given her, found him in his office, on the phone, voice cold and clipped. I don't care what it costs. I want to know who leaked the photo, and I want it handled, quietly. He saw Naya, held up a finger. 1 minute. No, not handled like that. Just make sure it doesn't happen again, yeah. Call me when it's done. He hung up, stood, crossed to her. What happened? They put me on leave. Indefinite. June's expression darkened. They can't do that. They just did. I'll talk to the hospital board. No. Nia stepped back. You'll make it worse. If you start throwing your weight around, it'll just prove them right. That I'm a liability, that you're using me to get leverage. I would never. I know that. But they don't. She dropped her bag on the couch, exhaustion hitting her all at once. This is what you meant, isn't it? When you said this life was dangerous, you didn't just mean guns and threats. You meant this, the isolation, the way people look at me now like I'm something dirty. June's jaw tightened. I'll make this right. How? He didn't answer, and that scared her more than anything. That night, Nia lay in bed staring at the ceiling while June made phone calls in the other room. His voice was low, controlled, but she could hear the edge in it, the promise of consequences for anyone who'd hurt her. She wanted to tell him to stop, but she also wanted someone to pay for what they'd taken from her. Maybe that made her just as bad as him. Around 2 a.m., June came to bed, pulled her against his chest, arms wrapped tight around her waist. I'm sorry, he murmured into her hair. For what? For bringing this into your life. Nia turned in his arms, looked up at him. I chose this. You gave me every chance to walk away. You shouldn't have had to choose. But I did. She touched his face, thumb brushing over his cheekbone. And I'd choose you again. June kissed her, slow and deep, and for a little while they forgot about newspapers and board meetings and the world outside trying to tear them apart. But the world didn't forget about them. Over the next 2 weeks, things got worse. The hospital officially terminated Nia's employment. The official reason was restructuring. The real reason was printed between the lines of the severance letter. We cannot guarantee the safety and neutrality of our staff given recent public associations. Nia's landlord called, said the building's other tenants were uncomfortable with her continued residence, gave her 30 days to vacate. Her best friend from nursing school, Maya, stopped returning her calls. Every time Nia left June's penthouse, she felt eyes on her. Sometimes it was reporters. Sometimes it was photographers. Sometimes it was just people staring, trying to figure out what kind of woman married a man like June Cade. Move in with me, June said one morning over coffee. Officially, bring everything, stay. Nia looked around his penthouse, all glass and steel and expensive furniture. Beautiful. Cold. Nothing like the small, cluttered apartment she'd called home for 5 years. I don't know if I fit here, she said. Then we'll make it fit. June set down his cup, took her hand. I know this isn't what you wanted. I know you're losing things because of me. But I can give you other things. Protection, security, a life where you don't have to worry about landlords or hospital boards or people who judge you for who you love. I don't want to be someone who needs protection. Too late. You married me. His grip tightened. And like it or not, that put a target on your back. So you can either move in here where I can keep you safe, or you can stay in an apartment where anyone can get to you. Your choice. Nia hated that he was right, hated that her independence had been stripped away piece by piece until the only safe place left was next to a man who ruled through violence. Okay, she said finally, I'll move in. June's expression softened. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me something. Anything. Don't let me disappear. Don't let me become just your wife, just another possession. I need to be more than that. June pulled her into his lap, arms bracketing her waist. You could never be just anything. You're Nia. You're the woman who told me to my face I was wasting her time. The woman who looked at me bleeding on her table and didn't flinch. The woman who chose to love me even when it cost her everything. He pressed his forehead to hers. You're not disappearing. I won't let you. Naya wanted to believe him. Needed to. So she moved into the penthouse. Brought her books, her plants, her secondhand furniture that looked ridiculous next to June's minimalist decor. He didn't care. Helped her arrange everything, made space for her in closets and drawers, let her take over the guest room and turn it into something that felt like hers. Slowly, the cold penthouse started to feel less like a fortress and more like a home. But the outside world wasn't done with them yet. The first threat came in the mail. A plain white envelope addressed to Naya, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Her walking out of a coffee shop, red crosshairs drawn over her chest in marker. June found her in the kitchen, staring at the photo, hands shaking. Who else knows about this? He asked, voice deadly calm. No one. It just came. He took the photo, studied it, then pulled out his phone. Marcus, I need you at the penthouse, now. And bring the security team. 20 minutes later, the living room was full of men in suits. June's head of security, Marcus, a brick wall of a man with sharp eyes, examined the envelope and photo with gloved hands. No prints. Generic envelope, bought at any drugstore. But the photo was taken 3 days ago based on her clothes. Marcus looked at June. Whoever sent this has been watching her. Nia's stomach turned. June's expression was stone. I want a security detail on her. 2 men, rotating shifts. Sweep the building, check for vulnerabilities, and pull footage from every camera within a 3-block radius of that coffee shop. Already on it, Marcus said. After the security team left, June pulled Nia into his arms. She could feel the tension radiating off him, coiled tight, barely restrained. I won't let them touch you, he said quietly. You can't control everything. Watch me. And he meant it. Over the next week, June tightened security until Nia could barely breathe without someone watching. 2 bodyguards followed her everywhere. The penthouse building got new cameras, new locks, new protocols. June had background checks run on every single person who worked in the building, from the doorman to the cleaning staff. It should have made her feel safe. Instead, it made her feel like a prisoner. I can't live like this, she told him one night. You can, and you will. June, no. He turned to face her, and there was something raw in his eyes. Fear. I lost my brother. I'm not losing you too. Nia's anger deflated. She crossed to him, took his face in her hands. You're not going to lose me. But you can't lock me away. That's not living. It's surviving. Surviving isn't enough. June closed his eyes, leaned into her touch. I don't know how to do this. How to keep you safe without controlling everything. You start by trusting me, and trusting that I'm strong enough to handle this. You are, but you shouldn't have to. Maybe not, but here we are. Naya kissed him gently. So we figure it out, together, like we promised. June nodded slowly. Okay, but the bodyguards stay. Fine, but they stay back. Give me space. Deal. It wasn't perfect, but it was compromise. And for now, that was enough. Then Nia met the rest of June's world. He'd kept her separate from his business, his people, the machinery of his empire. But after the threats started, he decided she needed to understand exactly what she was part of. There's a meeting tonight, he said over breakfast. My senior people. I want you there. Why? Because you're my wife. Because they need to see you're not just some weakness they can exploit. And because if something happens to me, I need to know they'll protect you. Nia set down her coffee. Nothing's going to happen to you. Probably not, but I don't leave things to chance. That night, Nia found herself in a private room at one of June's restaurants, surrounded by men who looked like they'd killed people and slept fine afterward. Marcus was there. So was Chen, not the doctor, a different Chen, June's financial guy. A woman named Lena who ran the smuggling operations. A man called Park who handled enforcement. They all stared at Nia like she was an interesting problem they hadn't solved yet. June sat at the head of the table, Nia beside him. Most of you have heard by now that I got married. This is my wife, Nia. And before anyone gets ideas, understand this. She's off limits, Completely. Anyone who threatens her, anyone who uses her to get to me, anyone who so much as looks at her wrong, they answer to me personally. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Marcus nodded. Understood. The others echoed the sentiment, but Naya could see the calculations happening behind their eyes, wondering if she was a liability, wondering if June had gone soft. Now that we've established that, June continued, let's talk about the Volkov situation. For the next hour, Naya sat quietly and listened to these people discuss territory disputes, shipment routes, and payoffs like they were talking about quarterly earnings. It was surreal, clinical, terrifying in how normal they made it sound. But what struck her most was June. This was a different version of him, cold, strategic, absolutely in control. When someone challenged his decision, he shut them down with a look. When Park suggested a violent solution to a problem, June offered a smarter alternative that didn't involve bloodshed. He was good at this. Scary good. When the meeting ended, people filed out. Lena lingered, studying Nia with open curiosity. You're braver than you look, she said. Thanks, I think. June doesn't let people in. Ever. So either you're incredibly special or incredibly stupid. Lena smiled, sharp and assessing. I'm betting on special. I'm betting on stupid, Nia replied. Lena laughed. I like you. Try not to get killed. After she left, Nia turned to June. Your people think I'm going to get you killed. My people think a lot of things. Doesn't make them right. Are they wrong? June stood, pulled her to her feet, hands on her waist. You make me better, calmer, more human. That's not a weakness. That's the only thing keeping me from becoming a monster. Nia wanted to believe that, but she'd seen the look in Park's eyes when he talked about eliminating a rival. She'd heard the casual way they discussed violence, and she knew June had done things, terrible things, to build this empire. How many people have you killed? She asked quietly. June didn't flinch. Enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you. He cupped her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. I've done things I'm not proud of, things that keep me up at night. But I've never killed anyone who wasn't trying to kill me or mine first. And I'm trying to build something that doesn't rely on blood. That's why I'm pushing legitimate businesses. That's why I'm making deals instead of war. But it's slow, and people resist change. What happens if they resist too hard? Then I remind them why they fear me. A chill ran down Nia's spine. Not because she was afraid of him, but because she understood, on some level, that this was who he was. The violence wasn't separate from the man she loved. It was woven into him, part of the foundation he'd built to survive. I need you to promise me something, she said. What? That you won't become the thing you're trying to leave behind. That you won't let this world turn you into someone I don't recognize. June's expression was grave. I promise. But you have to promise me something too. What? That you'll tell me if I start slipping, if I start crossing lines I shouldn't, because you're the only person I'll listen to. Nia nodded. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss, and for a moment, the weight of everything pressing down on them lifted. But only for a moment. The next threat came 2 days later. Nia was at a small grocery store 2 blocks from the penthouse. She'd insisted on doing some things herself, bodyguards or not, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Mrs. Cade. The voice was male, distorted, mechanical. Enjoying your shopping trip? Nia's blood went cold. She looked around the store, saw her bodyguards by the entrance, saw other shoppers going about their business. No one looked threatening. Who is this? She asked. Someone who wants to send your husband a message. You tell him the waterfront deal is off limits. He backs away, or next time it won't be a phone call. I'm not his messenger. Then you're his liability. The line went dead. Nia stood frozen in the middle of the produce section, heart pounding. The bodyguards noticed, moved toward her. Mrs. Cade, everything okay? She wanted to say yes, wanted to pretend everything was fine, but her hands were shaking, and the fear crawling up her throat wouldn't let her. We need to go, she said. Now. They rushed her back to the penthouse. June was in a meeting, but when Marcus told him what happened, he ended it immediately. Tell me exactly what they said, June demanded. Nia repeated the conversation word for word. With each sentence, June's expression grew darker. The waterfront deal, he said quietly. That's Kozlov. Has to be. Who's Kozlov? Nia asked. Russian syndicate. They've been trying to muscle into Blackwater for years. I've kept them out, but they're getting desperate. June started pacing. They went after Eli. Now they're going after you. You don't know that for sure. Yes, I do. He turned to Marcus. I want everyone we have on this. Find Kozlov's people, find who made that call, and find them fast. June, wait. Nia stepped in front of him. If you go after them, this escalates. More violence, more retaliation. When does it end? When they're gone. Or when we're dead. June grabbed her shoulders, not rough, but firm. I won't let them touch you. I don't care what it takes. Even if it means becoming everything you're trying not to be? That stopped him. His hands dropped. For a long moment, he just stood there, breathing hard, conflict written all over his face. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. Just ignore it? No, but there has to be another way. Something that doesn't end in bodies. Like what? Nia didn't have an answer. She wasn't built for this world, didn't know the rules or the plays, but she knew June, knew that if he gave in to the violence now, it would consume him. Talk to them, she said. Negotiate. Find out what they actually want. They want me gone. Then offer them something else, territory they can have, a cut of something that doesn't matter to you, anything that isn't war. June looked at her like she'd suggested he walk into traffic. You want me to negotiate with the people who threaten to kill you. I want you to try every option before you start a war. This is who I am, Nia. This is what I do. No. She stepped closer, hands on his chest. This is what you did. But you're trying to be more than that. You told me so yourself, so prove it. Show me. Show yourself that you can solve problems without bodies. June stared at her, jaw tight, every instinct clearly screaming at him to do the opposite of what she was asking. But slowly, something in his expression shifted. If this goes wrong, then we deal with it together. He pulled her against him, arms locked tight around her. You're asking me to gamble with your life. I'm asking you to gamble on being better than you think you are. June pressed his face into her hair, and she felt him shudder. Okay, I'll try. Thank you. But if they make one wrong move, all bets are off. Fair enough. Over the next 3 days, June reached out through back channels. Quiet conversations, neutral ground, messages sent through intermediaries. Nia didn't know all the details. He kept her out of the specifics, but she knew he was trying. Then the meeting happened. June met with Kozlov's second-in-command at a warehouse by the docks. Marcus and his team came armed, positioned strategically. Nia waited at the penthouse, pacing, checking her phone every 30 seconds. When June finally came home, it was past midnight. He looked exhausted. How'd it go? Nia asked. They're backing off for now. What did you give them? 2 territories on the south side I wasn't using anyway, and a percentage of a shipping route that was barely profitable. He dropped onto the couch, pulled her down next to him. They think they won. I let them think it. And the threats? Done. They touch you, the deal's off, and they know I'll bury them. Nia exhaled, relief flooding through her. You did it. You did it. This was your idea. We did it. Together. June pulled her into his lap, kissed her hard. I still hate that you were right. Get used to it. He laughed, and for the first time in days, the tension between them eased. But Nia knew this was just one battle. There would be others. More threats, more enemies, more impossible choices between who June was and who he wanted to become. The question was whether they'd survive it. The peace lasted exactly 3 weeks. Nia should have known better than to believe it would hold. In June's world, peace was just the pause between storms, the breath before the next hit. But she'd let herself hope anyway, and that hope made the betrayal cut deeper. It started with whispers. Rumors that June had gone soft, that marriage had dulled his edge. Other players in Blackwater's underworld started testing boundaries, pushing into territories they wouldn't have dared touch 6 months ago. Small things at first. A delayed payment here, a shipment that went missing there. Nothing June couldn't handle. But then the challenges got bolder. A crew tried to hijack one of his trucks. June's people stopped them, but the message was clear. People thought he was vulnerable. And in his world, perceived weakness was as dangerous as actual weakness. They think I've lost my spine, June said one night, standing at the penthouse windows, jaw tight, because I negotiated instead of going to war. You did the right thing, Naya said from the couch. The right thing is getting people killed. He turned to face her. 3 of my guys got jumped last night. One's in the hospital. They were delivering a routine payment, and some crew from the east side decided to make a point. Nia's stomach dropped. Are they okay? Martinez will be. The other 2 walked away with bruises. June's hands curled into fists. But it's only going to get worse. Every day I don't retaliate. I look weaker. And the weaker I look, the more people come after what's mine. So what are you going to do? He didn't answer right away. Just stood there, silhouetted against the city lights, looking like a man at war with himself. I don't know, he said finally, but I can't keep letting people think they can take shots at me and walk away. Nia wanted to tell him to stay the course, to keep choosing negotiation over violence. But she'd seen the bruises on his men, heard the strain in his voice. She was asking him to fight against every instinct that had kept him alive this long. Do what you have to do, she said quietly. Just don't lose yourself in it. June crossed the room, sat beside her, head in his hands. Sometimes I don't know who I am anymore. The man you want me to be or the man I've always been? Naya ran her fingers through his hair. You're both, and that's okay. It doesn't feel okay. I know. They sat like that for a long time, the silence heavy with everything they weren't saying. Outside, the city hummed with life. People who didn't know or care about the war brewing in its shadows. Nia envied them. The next morning, June made his move. He didn't tell Nia the details, but she heard about it afterward from Marcus, who came by the penthouse looking grim. He went to see the crew who jumped our guys, Marcus said. Walked right into their territory with just me and Chen, no backup, no weapons visible. Just walked in like he owned the place. What happened? Nia asked, heart in her throat. He gave them a choice. Work for him or work against him. If they chose him, they'd get protection, steady pay, and a piece of the East Side operations. If they chose against him, Marcus paused. He didn't finish the sentence, didn't have to. And they took the deal, all of them. Marcus almost smiled. Boss walked out of there with a new crew and didn't fire a single shot. The other crews heard about it by noon. Word spreading that June Cade's not soft. He's just smarter than everyone else. Relief washed over Nia. Where is he now? Handling some other business. He'll be back tonight. When June came home around midnight, Nia was waiting up. He looked tired but calmer, some of the tension gone from his shoulders. Heard you had a productive day, she said. Marcus has a big mouth. He's loyal. There's a difference. June dropped his jacket over a chair, came to sit beside her. I didn't want to worry you. Walking into enemy territory without backup is kind of worrying. I had backup, Marcus and Chen. That's not backup. That's suicide. It was calculated. June took her hand. I needed to show I wasn't afraid, that I could walk into their house and make them an offer they'd be stupid to refuse. Violence would have just started another cycle. This way, I turned enemies into assets. Nia studied his face. You're getting good at this. At what? Being better than you think you are. Something softened in his expression. He pulled her into his lap, arms wrapped around her waist. I'm trying. For you. For us, she corrected. For us, he agreed. They stayed like that, wrapped up in each other, and Nia let herself believe that maybe they'd found a way forward, a way to exist in June's world without being consumed by it, but the universe wasn't done testing them. 2 days later, Nia got a call from Maya, her best friend from nursing school, the one who'd stopped returning her calls after the wedding. Nia, Maya's voice was strained, I need to talk to you, in person. They met at a coffee shop across town, nowhere near June's territory or the penthouse. Maya looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking as she held her cup. What's wrong? Nia asked. I'm sorry I cut you off. After you married him, I didn't know how to handle it. It's okay. No, it's not. You're my friend and I abandoned you. Maya took a breath. But that's not why I called. Nia, there are people asking about you. Cold dread settled in Nia's stomach. What kind of people? I don't know. Men in suits. They came to the hospital asking questions about you. Your schedule when you worked there, your routines, Who you were close to? The administration told them to leave, but Maya's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared for you. When was this? Yesterday. Nia's mind raced. The deal with Kozlov was supposed to have ended the threats. But maybe it wasn't Kozlov. Maybe it was someone new, someone she and June hadn't anticipated. Did they say what they wanted? Nia asked. No, but Dr. Chen, your Dr. Chen, he told me to warn you, said you needed to be careful. Okay, thank you for telling me. Maya grabbed her hand. Nia, I know I don't have the right to say this, but you need to get out. Leave him. Leave Blackwater. Before this gets you killed. I can't do that. Why not? Because you love him? Maya's voice broke. Love isn't worth dying for. Maybe not, but he is. Maya pulled back, shaking her head. I don't understand you anymore. I know, and I'm sorry. Nia stood, squeezed Maya's hand. But this is my life now, for better or worse. She left the coffee shop with her bodyguards trailing behind and called June immediately. We have a problem, she said when he answered. 20 minutes later, they were in June's office with Marcus and Lena. Nia explained what Maya had told her while June listened, expression growing colder by the second. It's not Kozlov, Lena said when Nia finished. They're holding up their end. This is someone else. Who? June demanded. Could be anyone. You've made a lot of enemies over the years. Lena pulled out her phone, started typing. I'll reach out to my contacts, see if anyone's heard chatter. Marcus was already on his laptop, pulling up security footage from the hospital. If they were there yesterday, the cameras caught them. Nia watched them work, feeling useless and terrified. This was the reality of June's world. Constant threats, constant vigilance, never knowing when the next attack would come or from where. I want the security detail doubled, June said to Marcus. 4 men on her at all times. June, that's excessive, Nia started. I don't care. His voice was hard, final. Until we know who's asking questions and why, you don't go anywhere without a full team. I'm not a prisoner. You're my wife, and you're the easiest way to hurt me. So yes, you're getting a full security detail, and no, it's not negotiable. Nia wanted to argue, but the fear in his eyes stopped her. This wasn't about control. It was about terror. The bone-deep fear of losing her the same way he'd lost his brother. Okay, she said quietly. June's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you. By evening, Lena had information. She came back to the penthouse looking troubled. It's the Marchetti family, she said without preamble. June went very still. You're sure? 90%. They've been asking questions all over town. Not just about Nia. About you, your operations, your vulnerabilities. They're planning something. Who are the Marchettis? Nia asked. Old money crime family, June said, voice tight. They controlled Blackwater before I did. I took their territory piece by piece over 5 years. Thought I'd broken them, but apparently not. Why come after me? Because going after me directly hasn't worked, so they're looking for another angle. June started pacing. This is different from Kozlov. The Marchettis don't negotiate. They don't make deals. They just take and they destroy anything that gets in their way. So what do we do? Nia asked. I handle it. How? June didn't answer, and that silence told her everything. This wasn't going to be solved with conversation or compromise. This was going to end in blood. There has to be another way, she said. There isn't. June turned to face her, and his eyes were empty. I gave them chances to walk away, to build something new somewhere else. They chose to stay, and they chose to come after what's mine. That's on them. June... No, Nia. Not this time. His voice was final. You asked me to try negotiation, and I did. It worked with Kozlov because they were practical. The Marchettis aren't. They're old guard, honor-bound, vendetta-driven. They won't stop until either I'm dead or they are. So you're just going to kill them. If that's what it takes to keep you safe, yes. The certainty in his voice chilled her. This was the other side of June, the one he'd been trying to bury. The killer. The man who'd built an empire on violence and fear. I need air, Nia said, standing abruptly. Nia, just give me a minute. She walked out to the balcony, gripped the railing, and tried to breathe. The city sprawled below her, millions of lights in the darkness. Somewhere down there, people were making plans to hurt her, to use her against June, and he was going to kill them for it. The door opened behind her. June stepped out, kept his distance. "I know what you're thinking," he said quietly. "What am I thinking? That I'm a monster, that this is who I really am, and everything else is just an act." Nia turned to face him. "Are you?" "I don't know anymore." June's hand shoved into his pockets. "I want to be the man you see when you look at me, the one who solves problems without violence. But that man gets people killed, gets you killed, so maybe I can't be both." "That's not true, isn't it? Look at the last month. I tried to be better and it almost cost me everything. My men got hurt, you got threatened, the whole city thinks I'm weak. At some point, I have to accept that this is who I am, who I've always been." "No." Nia closed the distance between them. "You're the man who sat with me in a shitty diner and talked about books. The man who held me when I cried about losing my job. The man who's been trying so hard to build something that isn't just violence and fear." She grabbed his jacket. "That's who you are. The other stuff, the killing, the empire, that's what you do. But it's not who you are. What if there's no difference?" "There is. And I know that because I've seen you make choices that prove it." Her voice shook. "So yes, handle the Marchettis. Do whatever you have to do to keep us safe, but don't tell yourself it's inevitable. Don't use this as an excuse to stop trying to be better." June stared at her, something raw and desperate in his eyes. "What if I can't do both? What if keeping you safe means becoming everything I'm trying not to be?" "Then we figure it out. But you don't get to give up. Not on yourself and not on us." He pulled her against him, buried his face in her hair. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." A rough laugh escaped him. "Lucky me." They stood like that until the cold drove them inside, and for a while the weight of everything pressing down on them eased just enough to breathe. But the threat didn't disappear. It intensified. Over the next week, the Marchettis made their move. They hit 3 of June's operations in coordinated strikes. A warehouse burned, a shipment stolen. 2 of his crew beaten so badly they ended up in intensive care. Each attack was calculated, designed to hurt his reputation and his business. June responded with surgical precision. He didn't go to war. He went after their money, froze their accounts through contacts in banking, seized their properties through legal loopholes, cut off their supply lines, turned their allies against them by offering better deals. It was brutal and efficient, and it worked. Within 2 weeks, the Marchetti family was bleeding cash and losing ground. But they didn't surrender. They escalated. The photograph arrived at the penthouse on a Tuesday morning. June was in a meeting, so Marcus brought it to Nia. Inside the envelope was a picture of her walking into a grocery store taken 3 days earlier. Written across the bottom in red ink, "We know where she goes." Nia stared at the photo, hands shaking. This was different from the previous threats. This was specific, personal, a promise. When June saw it, something in him snapped. "That's it," he said, voice deadly calm. "I'm ending this. Tonight." "What are you going to do?" Nia asked. "What I should have done 2 weeks ago." "June, no!" He cut her off, eyes hard. "They've had every chance to back down. They chose this, so now they get to live with the consequences." He walked out before she could argue, Marcus and his team falling in behind him. Nia was left standing in the living room, holding a photograph that felt like a death sentence. Lena stayed behind, leaning against the wall with her arms crossed. "He's going to kill them," Nia said quietly. "Probably." "And you're okay with that?" "I'm okay with staying alive. With my people staying alive. With you staying alive." Lena pushed off the wall. "Look, I get it. You want him to be better than this, but sometimes better gets you dead. And June knows that. There has to be another way." "There isn't. Not with the Marchettis. They're old school, honor and blood. They won't stop until they've avenged what June took from them." Lena's expression softened slightly. "I know you love him, but you need to understand what that means. Loving June Cade means accepting that sometimes he has to do terrible things to protect the people he cares about. And if you can't accept that, you need to walk away now, before it destroys you both." Nia wanted to argue, wanted to say she could change him, save him, pull him back from the edge. But deep down, she knew Lena was right. June was fighting a war on two fronts, against his enemies and against himself, and Naya was asking him to lose both. I can't walk away, she said. Then stop fighting him on this. Let him do what he needs to do and be there when it's over. Lena left, and Nia sat alone in the too quiet penthouse, waiting for her husband to come home from doing things she didn't want to imagine. He returned at 4 a.m., covered in someone else's blood. Nia was still awake, curled up on the couch with cold coffee and a book she hadn't read. When June walked in, she saw the blood on his shirt, his hands, and felt her stomach turn. "Are you hurt?" she asked, standing. "No." "Is it over?" "Yes." He didn't elaborate, didn't explain, just stood there looking exhausted and hollow, and like a man who'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. Nia crossed to him, took his blood-stained hands in hers. "Go shower. I'll make coffee." "Nia, shower first. We'll talk after." He nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. Nia heard the water start, heard him moving around, and tried not to think about what he'd done, what he'd become, what they'd both become. When he emerged 20 minutes later, clean and wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, she had coffee waiting. They sat on the couch, not touching, the space between them feeling wider than it ever had. "The Marchettis won't be a problem anymore," June said finally. "Did you kill them?" "Some of them. The ones who wouldn't walk away." He stared at his coffee. "The rest scattered, left Blackwater. They're done." "How many?" "Does it matter?" "Yes." June met her eyes. 4. 4 men who tried to run, who fought back. The others saw what happened and left before I had to make that choice. 4 lives. 4 families who'd lost someone tonight because of the war between June and a family that wouldn't let go. "I'm sorry," Nia said quietly. "For what?" "For asking you to be something you can't be. For pushing you to choose negotiation when violence was the only language they understood. You were right to push me. I needed someone to." June set down his coffee, turned to face her. "But you were also wrong. Some people can't be reasoned with. Some threats can't be talked down. And if I'm going to keep you safe, I have to be willing to do terrible things." "I know. Can you live with that?" Nia thought about it, really thought about it. Could she love a man who killed, who built his life on violence and control? Who would always have blood on his hands, no matter how hard he tried to wash it off? The answer should have been no. Should have been easy. But it wasn't. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I'm still here. And I'm not leaving." June pulled her against him, and she felt him shaking. "I love you, and I'm sorry for all of it." "I love you too." They held each other in the pre-dawn darkness, 2 broken people trying to build something whole, and Nia prayed it would be enough. The next morning, the news broke. 4 members of the Marchetti family found dead in what police were calling a gang-related incident. The rest of the family had vanished overnight, their properties abandoned, their businesses shuttered. Blackwater's underworld got the message loud and clear. June Cade was still dangerous, maybe more dangerous than ever because now he had something to protect. The threats stopped. The challenges disappeared. People went back to fearing him the way they used to, and the fragile peace Nia had been fighting for crumbled into dust. But at least she was alive, that they both were. For now, that had to be enough. The weeks after the Marchetti massacre were the quietest Nia had experienced since marrying June. Too quiet. The kind of silence that made her skin crawl because she knew it wouldn't last. June threw himself into work with an intensity that bordered on obsession. He was home less, slept less, talked less. When he did come to bed, he'd lie awake staring at the ceiling like he was waiting for something to fall on them. Nia would reach for him in the dark, and he'd hold her tight enough to bruise, but he wouldn't talk about what was eating him alive. "You're pulling away," she said one morning over coffee. Neither of them was drinking. "I'm right here. Physically, yeah, but the rest of you is somewhere I can't reach." June set down his cup, rubbed his face. "I'm trying to keep you safe. By shutting me out? By making sure what happened with the Marchettis doesn't happen again. That means working more, tightening security, making sure everyone knows that touching you means death. I don't want to be the reason you stop living. You're the reason I'm still alive." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I just need some time to sort through everything. The Marchettis, Eli, all of it. I'm not running from you. I'm just trying to figure out how to be the man you need me to be. Nia squeezed his fingers. I need you to be honest with me, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Okay, honest. June took a breath. I'm scared, terrified actually, because for the first time in my life, I have something I can't afford to lose, and I don't know how to protect you without becoming the thing you're asking me not to be. The raw vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in her chest. You don't have to have all the answers. We figure it out together. That's what marriage is. I'm not used to together. I'm used to handling everything alone. Well, get used to it, because I'm not going anywhere. A small smile tugged at his mouth. Stubborn. You married me knowing that. Best decision I ever made. They sat there holding hands across the table, and for a moment the weight lifted enough for them to breathe. But the moment didn't last. That afternoon, while June was in a meeting downtown, Nia decided to leave the penthouse. She was going stir-crazy, suffocating under the constant security presence. She needed air, needed to feel like herself again instead of some fragile thing that needed protecting. I'm going for a walk, she told her bodyguards. Where to, Mrs. Cade? Davis, the lead guard, asked. Just around the block, 20 minutes. We'll come with you. I know, but give me some space. Trail behind, not beside me. Davis hesitated, then nodded. 20 minutes. Not a second longer. Nia walked out into the bright afternoon sun, feeling almost normal for the first time in weeks. She wandered through the neighborhood, stopped at a bookstore, bought a coffee from a street vendor. The bodyguard stayed back like she'd asked, giving her the illusion of freedom even though she knew they were watching her every move. She was heading back toward the penthouse when she saw him. A man in a dark jacket, standing across the street, staring directly at her. Something about his posture, the way he didn't look away when she noticed him, set off every alarm bell in her head. Nia started walking faster. The man followed. Davis? She said quietly, knowing he had an earpiece. We see him. Keep moving toward the building. We've got you. Nia's heart hammered as she picked up her pace. The penthouse was 2 blocks away. The man was closing the distance. She could hear footsteps behind her now, getting closer. Then everything happened at once. The man pulled a gun. Davis and the other bodyguard drew theirs. Someone shouted, and Nia ran. She made it half a block before she heard the gunshots. 3, 4, 5 in rapid succession. She hit the ground behind a parked car, hands over her head, ears ringing. More shots, shouting, then silence. Mrs. Cade? Davis was there, pulling her to her feet. We need to move, now. What happened? Car's coming. Move. He half dragged her down the street as a black SUV screeched to a stop beside them. Marcus was driving, Lana in the passenger seat. They shoved Nia into the back, and the car was moving before the door even closed. Is she hit? Marcus demanded. No, shooter's down. Johnson's calling it in. Nia's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold them still. Who was he? Don't know yet, but he came for you specifically. Davis was checking his weapon, reloading. Whoever he was, he's dead now. The SUV raced toward the penthouse while Nia tried to process what had just happened. Someone had tried to kill her, in broad daylight, on a crowded street. And if Davis hadn't been there, if the bodyguards hadn't reacted fast enough, she'd be dead. When they got to the penthouse, Marcus called June. Nia could hear him even from across the room. She's fine. We got her. Yeah, shooter's down. Marcus glanced at Nia. She's shaken up, but not hurt. Put her on. Marcus handed her the phone. Nia? I'm okay. I'm coming home. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. Just stay inside. June? 10 minutes. I'll be there in 10 minutes. He hung up. Nia sat on the couch, still shaking, while Lena poured her a drink she didn't want and Davis coordinated with the rest of the security team. The penthouse felt like it was closing in on her, all the windows suddenly looking like vulnerabilities instead of views. June burst through the door 9 minutes later, scanned the room, found her. He crossed to her in 3 strides, pulled her up into his arms, and held on like she might disappear. I'm okay, Nia said against his chest. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. June pulled back, hands on her face, checking for injuries he wouldn't find. What were you thinking, leaving the building? I needed air. I was going crazy in here. So you risked your life for a walk? I had bodyguards. I did everything right. And you still almost died. His voice cracked. Do you understand that? You almost died and I wasn't there. But I. Nia saw the terror in his eyes and realized this wasn't about her being reckless. It was about him being helpless, about losing control, about the nightmare that had been chasing him since Eli died catching up. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Don't apologize. Just promise me you won't leave this building without telling me first. June, I can't live like that. Promise me. His hands tightened on her face. Please. She looked at him, this man who ruled through fear and violence but was falling apart at the thought of losing her, and felt her resistance crumble. Okay, I promise. He pulled her back against him, and she felt him shaking. They stood like that while Marcus briefed them on what they knew so far. Shooter's name was Alex Reed, low-level enforcer, worked for whoever paid him. We're tracing his contacts now, finding out who hired him. I want answers by tonight, June said, not letting go of Nia. You'll have them. By evening, they had a name, Vincent Marchetti. I thought the Marchettis were gone, Nia said. Most of them are. Vincent's the youngest. He was in Europe when everything went down. Lena pulled up a photo on her tablet. 26 years old, trust fund kid, never been part of the business. Until now. He's coming after me because of what happened to his family, June said. Looks that way. And he's reckless. Hiring street-level guys instead of professionals. Going after Nia in broad daylight. He's not trying to be smart. He's trying to hurt you. June's expression went cold. Where is he? We're working on it. He's using cash, staying off grid. But we'll find him. How long? Could be days. Could be weeks. We don't have weeks. June stood, started pacing. He already made one attempt. He'll make another. And he'll keep coming until either he's dead or she is. Nia's blood ran cold. So what do we do? You stay here, full security lockdown. No one in or out except my people. For how long? However long it takes. June, I can't just hide in here indefinitely. Yes, you can. He turned to face her, and his eyes were hard. This isn't negotiable. Vincent Marchetti wants you dead to punish me for killing his family. And he's desperate and stupid and dangerous. So you stay here where I can protect you, or I send you somewhere he'll never find you. Your choice. That's not a choice. That's an ultimatum. Call it whatever you want, but you're not dying because I failed to keep you safe. They stared at each other, the tension thick enough to choke on. Finally, Nia looked away. Fine. I'll stay. Thank you. But the resentment burned in her chest. This was her life now, locked in a gilded cage while men with guns hunted each other over old grudges and blood debts. She'd known marrying June meant danger, but knowing it and living it were two different things. The days bled together. Nia couldn't leave the penthouse, couldn't see anyone except June's people. She tried to fill the time with books, with cooking, with anything to keep her mind occupied. But the walls kept closing in. June was gone more than he was home, out hunting for Vincent Marchetti with the single-minded focus of a man possessed. When he did come back, he was exhausted, wound tight, barely present. Talk to me, Nia said one night when he came home at 3 a.m. Nothing to talk about? We're still looking. Not about that. About us. About what this is doing to us. June sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. I don't know what you want me to say. I want you to acknowledge that we're falling apart. We're not... Yes, we are. You're barely here. When you are here, you're somewhere else. We don't talk, we don't connect. I'm just this thing you're trying to protect instead of your wife. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's true. Nia moved to sit beside him. I know you're trying to keep me safe. I know you're scared. But shutting me out isn't protecting me. It's just making us both miserable. June was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was raw. I don't know how to do this. How to hunt someone who wants to kill you and still be present for you. How to be the husband you need when I'm also trying to be the man who keeps you alive. You start by letting me in, by trusting that I'm strong enough to handle the truth. The truth is, I'm terrified. Every second you're breathing feels borrowed. Every moment we have together feels like it could be the last. And I can't... His voice broke. I can't lose you. I won't survive it. Nia's throat tightened. She reached for his hand, laced their fingers together. You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. Neither do you. But we can't live like this, June, waiting for the worst to happen. We have to find a way to actually live, not just survive. He turned to look at her, eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. How? We start by being honest, by talking instead of shutting down, by remembering we're on the same side. She cupped his face. I love you. And I'm not giving up on us just because things are hard. June pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck. I love you too. So much it scares me. They held each other in the darkness, two people barely holding on, and made a silent promise to keep fighting for what they had. The break came 3 days later. Marcus tracked Vincent Marchetti to a warehouse on the edge of town. He was holed up with 3 other guys, all young and stupid and armed. We can take them, Marcus said, standing in June's office with a tactical map spread across the desk. 4 of them, 12 of us. We go in fast and hard. They don't stand a chance. Casualties? June asked. Theirs, not ours. You're sure? Positive. These aren't professionals. They're kids playing gangster. June studied the map, and Nia saw the calculation happening behind his eyes. The weighing of risks and outcomes. The decision that would end in more blood. Do it, he said finally. But I want Vincent alive. Alive? He tried to kill my wife. He doesn't get a quick death. June's voice was ice. Bring him to me. Marcus nodded and left. Nia waited until they were alone. What are you going to do to him? She asked. What do you think? I think you're going to torture him. June didn't deny it. He tried to kill you, Nia. He hired someone to put a bullet in you. What would you have me do? Let him walk away? No. But there's a difference between justice and revenge. Not in my world. Then maybe your world is the problem. June flinched like she'd hit him. You want me to be better. I get that. But this kid, he made his choice when he came after you, and now he gets to live with the consequences. By being tortured to death? By understanding that some lines you don't cross. June stepped closer. I know you think I'm a monster. Maybe I am, but I'm a monster who keeps you alive. So if that means doing terrible things to terrible people, I'll live with it. Nia wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him that revenge wouldn't change anything, wouldn't make them safer, wouldn't heal the wound Eli's death had left. But she also remembered the gunshots, the terror of running for her life, the knowledge that someone wanted her dead. Just make it quick, she said finally. Don't drag it out. Nia, I know what he did, I know what he deserves, but prolonging it just makes you like him. So do what you have to do, but don't make it last longer than it needs to. June studied her face, then nodded slowly. Okay. Thank you. He left an hour later with Marcus and half his crew. Nia stayed in the penthouse, pacing, trying not to think about what was happening in that warehouse, trying not to picture June with blood on his hands again. When her phone rang at 2:47 a.m., she answered immediately. It's done, June said. Is he dead? Quick, like you asked. Relief and revulsion warred in her chest. Are you okay? I will be. I'm coming home. He hung up and Nia sat in the dark living room, waiting. When June finally walked through the door an hour later, he looked exhausted but calm. No blood this time. Just a man who'd done what he thought necessary and was trying to live with it. It's over, he said. Yeah, Vincent's people scattered. The contract on you is void. You're safe now. Nia should have felt relief, should have felt like she could finally breathe, but all she felt was numb. Come here, she said. June crossed to her and she pulled him down onto the couch beside her. They sat in silence, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. 2 people who'd been through hell and somehow made it out the other side. I don't know how to keep doing this, Nia said quietly. Doing what? Watching you become someone you hate, asking you to be better and then accepting when you're not. I feel like I'm losing pieces of myself every time this happens. June was quiet for a long moment. Do you want to leave? No. Then what do you want? I want us to find a way forward that doesn't destroy us both. I want you to stop having to kill people to keep me safe. I want... Her voice broke. I want a life that's more than just surviving the next threat. So do I. June shifted to face her. That's why I've been working on something, a way out. Out of what? This life. The violence, the territory wars, all of it. He took her hands. I've been liquidating the illegal operations, moving money into legitimate businesses, real estate, tech investments, construction, things that make money without blood. Nia stared at him. You're getting out? Trying to. It's slow. I can't just walk away without creating a power vacuum that'll get people killed. But I'm laying the groundwork. Another year, maybe 2, and I'll be clean, or as clean as someone like me can ever be. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure I could pull it off. And I didn't want to promise you something I couldn't deliver. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. But after tonight, after ending the Marchetti thing, I'm done, Nia. I'm done with this life. I want to build something better. With you. Tears burned in her eyes. You mean it? Every word. She kissed him, tasting salt and relief and hope for the first time in months. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead to his. We're going to make it, she whispered. Yeah, we are. That night, they made love slowly, carefully, like they were rediscovering each other after a long absence. And when Nia fell asleep in June's arms, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they'd found a way forward. But the universe had one more test waiting for them. The call came at 2:47 a.m., exactly 1 week later. Nia was asleep when June's phone rang, jolting them both awake. What? June answered, voice rough with sleep. Marcus's voice came through, tight with urgency. We've got a situation at the hospital. You need to see this. What situation? Just turn on the news. June grabbed the remote, turned on the TV. Every channel was showing the same thing. Blackwater General Hospital, emergency room windows shattered, police cars everywhere. Reporters talking about an active shooter situation. Nia's blood turned to ice. That's my old ER, she whispered. Then the news anchor said something that made her heart stop. Reports are coming in that one of the victims is a nurse who was working the night shift. Witnesses say she was specifically targeted. The screen cut to footage from someone's phone. The ER, chaos, blood on the floor. And then Nia saw her, not herself, but Maya, her best friend from nursing school, the one who'd warned her about the men asking questions. Maya, lying on the floor in a pool of blood. Nia couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The room spun. That's Maya, she said. Oh my God, that's Maya. June was already on his phone. Marcus, get me everything. Who? Why? What happened? Now. But Nia knew. Deep in her gut, she knew. This was meant for her. The shooters had gone to the hospital looking for Nia Vale, not knowing she didn't work there anymore. And Maya who looked enough like her from a distance, Maya who'd taken her shifts, Maya who'd stayed behind, Maya had paid the price. I need to go, Nia said, scrambling out of bed. No, absolutely not. She's my friend. And you'll be dead if you walk into that hospital. June grabbed her arms. This was meant for you, Nia. They were looking for you. I know, and she died because of me. Tears streamed down her face. Don't you understand? She died because I married you, because people want to hurt you by hurting me. And now Maya's gone, and it's my fault. It's not your fault. It's the fault of whoever pulled that trigger. Who was it? Who did this? June's jaw was tight. I don't know yet, but I will. And when I do, more killing, more revenge. When does it end, June? When does it stop? When they stop coming after what's mine. Nia pulled away from him, wrapped her arms around herself. On the TV, they were showing Maya being loaded into an ambulance. The reporter said she was in critical condition, not dead yet, but close. I need to be there, Nia said. It's not safe. I don't care. Well, I do. June's voice was steel. You're not leaving this building. Not until we know who did this and why. You can't keep me prisoner. Watch me. They stared at each other, and Nia saw the fear beneath his anger. The terror that if he let her go, she'd end up like Maya, bleeding on a hospital floor because someone wanted to send him a message. But she also saw something else. The realization that this would never end. That as long as she was June Cade's wife, she was a target, and everyone she loved was collateral damage. This can't be my life, she said quietly. It already is. Then maybe we made a mistake. The words hung between them, too big to take back. June's expression shuddered. You want to leave. I want Maya to not be dying in a hospital because she looks like me. I want to not be locked in this penthouse like a prisoner. I want to be able to live without wondering when the next bullet's coming. Her voice broke. I love you, June, but I don't know if love is enough anymore. Before he could respond, his phone rang again. Marcus. Talk, June said, not taking his eyes off Nia. Whatever Marcus said made June's expression darken. You're sure? Okay, I'm coming in. He hung up, and when he looked at Nia, there was something new in his eyes. Something that looked like defeat. The shooters are in custody. They're talking. He grabbed his jacket. I have to go handle this. June, we'll finish this conversation when I get back. But until then, you stay here. Please. He left before she could argue, and Nia was alone with the TV showing her best friend's blood and the knowledge that everything she'd built with June was crumbling. She grabbed her phone, called the hospital. They wouldn't tell her anything because she wasn't family. She called Maya's parents. They didn't answer. She paced the penthouse, trapped and helpless, and drowning in guilt. At 6 a.m., June came back. One look at his face told her everything she needed to know. Who was it? She asked. Remnants of the Marchetti organization. Vincent had a cousin. Marcus didn't know about him. He wanted revenge, hired some guys, told them to hit the nurse who married me. They went to the hospital, saw Maya. He stopped. They thought she was you. Nia's legs gave out. She sat on the couch, hands shaking. Is Maya alive? Critical but stable. They think she'll make it. Thank God. The shooters are dead. I made sure of it. Of course he did. More bodies, more blood, more revenge, and an endless cycle that kept spinning. I can't do this anymore, Nia said. I know. I mean it, June. I can't keep living like this, waiting for the next attack, watching people I love get hurt because of me. I know, he said again, and there was something broken in his voice. And I don't know how to fix it. I'm trying to get out. I'm trying to build something better, but it's not fast enough, and people keep getting hurt. So what do we do? June sat beside her, took her hand. We make a choice. Either we fight through this together and trust that eventually it gets better, or we accept that maybe we can't make this work and walk away before it destroys us both. Nia looked at him. This man she'd fallen in love with in a shitty diner over bad coffee. This man who'd brought violence and danger and impossible choices into her life. This man she still loved despite everything. I don't want to walk away, she said. Neither do I. But I need things to change, really change, not just promises of getting out someday. I need to see progress. I need to see you actually building that better life instead of just surviving this one. Okay. June's grip tightened on her hand. Then that's what I'll do. I'll accelerate the transition, sell off the rest of the illegal operations faster, take the financial hit if I have to, make the exit real instead of just theoretical. And if that makes you more vulnerable, if people come after you because they sense weakness, then I deal with it. But I won't let this life take you from me, even if that means risking everything I've built. Nia searched his face and saw the truth there. He meant it, every word. Okay, she said finally. We try. We fight for this. Together. Together, he echoed. They sealed it with a kiss that tasted like desperation and determination in equal measure. And when they broke apart, Nia knew they'd just made a promise that would either save them or destroy them. There was no middle ground anymore, just the choice to keep fighting or give up. And they chose to fight. The promise they made that morning became the foundation everything else was built on. But foundations took time, and time was something they didn't have much of. June moved fast. Within 2 weeks, he'd sold 3 of his most profitable illegal operations to buyers outside Blackwater. The money went into legitimate investments, a construction company, a chain of restaurants, commercial real estate. He brought in accountants and lawyers, people who knew how to make dirty money clean without leaving a trail. Nia watched it happen from the penthouse, still under security lockdown, but slowly regaining pieces of her life. She video called Maya in the hospital. Her friend was recovering, scared but alive. They didn't talk about what happened, couldn't. The guilt sat too heavy between them. I'm sorry, Nia said during one call. For what? Maya's voice was weak but steady. For everything. For marrying him, for putting you in danger, for... Stop! Maya shifted in her hospital bed, winced. You didn't pull the trigger. You didn't hire those men. You just fell in love with the wrong person. That's not... Yeah, it is. And you know what? I'm still here, still breathing, still pissed off at the world, but alive. Maya managed a small smile. So stop apologizing and start living. Otherwise, they win. Nia's throat tightened. I don't know how to do that anymore. Figure it out. Because I didn't survive getting shot just to watch you waste your life feeling guilty. After the call ended, Nia sat staring at her phone, Maya's words echoing in her head. Stop apologizing and start living. It sounded simple. It wasn't, but maybe that was the point. Maybe living wasn't supposed to be simple. Maybe it was supposed to be messy and complicated and hard. And you did it anyway because the alternative was just existing. That night, Nia told June she wanted to do something. Like what? He asked, looking up from the stack of legal documents spread across his desk. I don't know yet, but I can't just sit in this penthouse waiting for your world to become safe enough for me to exist in. I need to be more than your wife, more than a target. I need to be myself again. June set down his pen. What do you need? Permission to start figuring that out. You don't need my permission, don't I? You've got me locked down tighter than a prisoner. I can't leave without approval, can't do anything without security clearing it first. That's to keep you safe. I know, but safe isn't the same as alive. Nia crossed to his desk, sat on the edge. I need to find a way to do something that matters. Something that's mine, not just an extension of being your wife. June studied her face, and she could see him wrestling with it. The instinct to protect versus the need to let her be who she was. Okay, he said finally. What do you want to do? I want to work again. Not at a hospital. I know that's too exposed, but maybe a clinic, something small, somewhere people need help. That's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. Living is dangerous. But I was a nurse before I met you, and I was good at it. I need that part of myself back. June was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call. Lena, I need you to find something for me. A clinic in a low-income neighborhood, somewhere that needs funding and staff. Yeah, I'll explain later. Just find it. He hung up, looked at Nia. You want to work? You work. But we do it smart. I fund the clinic, we control security, and you don't go anywhere without protection. June, non-negotiable. You want to save lives? I want you alive to do it. We compromise. Nia wanted to argue, but she also knew he was right. This was the reality of their life now. Compromise between who they wanted to be and who they had to be to survive. Okay, she said, we compromise. 3 weeks later, Nia stood in front of a rundown building in Blackwater's South Side, staring at the faded sign that read Southside Community Clinic. Lena stood beside her, arms crossed. Owner's been trying to sell for 6 months. Place is hemorrhaging money, equipment's outdated, only gets Medicare patients. Nobody wants it. I want it, Nia said. You sure? This neighborhood's rough. We'll need serious security. I'm sure. By the end of the week, June had bought the building. Nia spent the next month transforming it. New equipment, fresh paint, updated systems. She hired 2 other nurses and a part-time doctor, all people who understood the neighborhood and didn't ask questions about where the funding came from. The clinic opened on a Tuesday morning. Within an hour, there was a line out the door. Nia worked her first shift in months, and it felt like coming home. Treating a kid with an ear infection, stitching up a construction worker who'd cut his hand, talking an elderly woman through her medication schedule. Real work. Real people. Real purpose. When she came home that night, exhausted and happy in a way she hadn't been since before the wedding, June was waiting with takeout and a rare smile. How was it? He asked. Perfect. Chaotic and overwhelming and perfect. He pulled her into his arms. You looked happy in the security footage. You were watching? I had 4 cameras installed. I'm always watching. Nia should have been annoyed. Instead, she just laughed. Of course you are. Can't help it. You're important. So are you, which is why you need to see this. She pulled out her phone, showed him photos of the clinic. We treated 63 people today. 63 people who wouldn't have gotten care otherwise. June studied the photos, and something shifted in his expression. You did this in one day? We did this. Your money, my work. No, this is yours. He handed back the phone. And it's incredible. That night, as they lay in bed, June said something that surprised her. I've been thinking about what you said. About needing to be more than just your husband's wife. Yeah? I think I need that too. To be more than just June Cade, the guy who used to run Blackwater. What do you want to be? I don't know yet, but watching you today, seeing you do something that matters, it made me realize I've spent 15 years building something I don't even want anymore. Nia turned to face him. So what do you want? A life that isn't just survival, work that doesn't require looking over my shoulder, a future where our kids, if we have them, don't grow up afraid. Kids? Nia's heart skipped. Maybe. Someday. June touched her face. If we can make this world safe enough, we will. We're doing it right now. He kissed her, slow and deep, and Nia felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Real, tangible hope that maybe they could actually build the life they wanted. But hope was fragile, and the past wasn't done with them yet. The call came 2 months later, just as things were starting to stabilize. June had liquidated most of his illegal operations, Marcus was transitioning his crew into security consulting, and Nia's clinic was thriving. They were building something real. Then Marcus showed up at the penthouse at midnight, face grim. "We've got a problem," he said. June was already reaching for his phone. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that doesn't go away quietly. Detective Sarah Chen from Major Crimes. She's been building a case against you for 2 years, and she's ready to move." Nia's stomach dropped. "A case for what?" "Everything. Money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy. She's got witnesses, financial records, the whole thing. If she arrests him, he's looking at 20 years minimum." June went very still. "How solid is her case? Solid enough that my guy in the department says she's planning to move within the week. Can we make it go away?" "Not without doing something that lands you in even more trouble." Marcus looked between them. "You've got options, but none of them are good. Run. Fight it in court? Or what?" Nia asked. "Or you cooperate. Give her something bigger in exchange for immunity." "I'm not a rat," June said flatly. "Then you're going to prison." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Nia felt the room tilting, everything they'd built suddenly crumbling. "There has to be another way," she said. "There isn't." Marcus looked at June. "You've been getting out anyway. The operations you sold are someone else's problem now. But Chen's been building this case on your old business. You could give her the buyers, the current players, the whole network, in exchange for walking away clean and destroy everything I built. You're already destroying it. This just does it faster and keeps you out of prison." June started pacing, hands in his hair, and Nia could see the war happening inside him. Pride versus pragmatism. The man he'd been versus the man he was trying to become. "How long do I have?" he asked finally. "Maybe a week, maybe less." After Marcus left, June and Nia sat in silence. The weight of the decision pressed down on them, suffocating. "What are you going to do?" Nia asked. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." June looked at her, and his eyes were lost. "If I cooperate, I'm betraying everything I stood for, everyone who trusted me. You're saving yourself, and us, and the future we're trying to build, by destroying the past. The past is already gone, June. You sold it piece by piece. This just makes it official." He shook his head. "People will see me as weak, a traitor. Everything I built my reputation on will be gone." "Good. Let it be gone." Nia grabbed his hands. "That reputation is the thing that's been trying to kill us for months. That reputation is why Maya got shot, why I lost my job, why we can't leave this building without armed guards. So let it die. Let all of it die, and build something new. What if I don't know how to be anything else? Then we figure it out together, like we've been doing this whole time." Joan pulled her close, and she felt him shaking. This was bigger than the Marchettis, bigger than Kozlov, bigger than any threat they'd faced. This was the complete dismantling of everything he'd built his identity on. "I'm scared," he whispered. "I know, so am I. But we do it anyway." The meeting with Detective Chen happened 3 days later in a federal building downtown. June brought his lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, who'd been cleaning up wealthy criminals for 30 years. Chen was in her 40s, hard-eyed and unimpressed. She laid out her case with clinical precision, dates, transactions, witness statements. She had enough to bury June 10 times over. "So here's the deal," she said, sliding a document across the table. "You give me the current network. names, locations, operations, everything you know about who took over your business. In exchange, we give you immunity and witness protection. I don't need witness protection, June said. You will when the people you're giving up find out. Patricia leaned forward. My client needs guarantees, full immunity, sealed records, and protection for his wife. Done. If he delivers. June stared at the document. This was it. The moment where he stopped being June Cade, feared criminal kingpin, and became something else entirely. Something smaller, safer, anonymous. He thought about Eli, dying in an alley over a business that didn't matter. He thought about Nia, bleeding on an ER floor because someone wanted to hurt him. He thought about the man he'd been when they met, empty, lonely, ruling an empire that gave him everything except what he actually wanted. Then he thought about the clinic, about Nia's face when she talked about the people she'd helped, about the future they were building, brick by careful brick. He picked up the pen and signed. The next 6 months were the hardest of their lives. June spent weeks in debriefings, giving the FBI everything they needed to dismantle the network he'd built. People he'd known for years were arrested. Operations were shut down. His name, kept out of public records per the immunity deal, became a ghost story in Blackwater's underworld. The people who figured out what he'd done came after him anyway. 2 attempts on his life, 3 on Nia's. But they survived, moved to a different building, changed their routines, kept Marcus and a small security team close. Slowly, the threats decreased. The old world moved on without them, and June and Nia built their new one. Nia's clinic expanded. She opened a second location, then a third. They weren't fancy, just small neighborhood clinics that took anyone who walked through the door. But they saved lives, and that mattered. June surprised everyone, including himself, by becoming a legitimate businessman. The construction company he'd bought as a cover turned into a real enterprise. He hired people from the old neighborhoods, paid them well, gave them chances nobody else would. Within a year, the company was turning a profit and building affordable housing across the city. You're good at this, Nia said one night, watching him review blueprints for a new development. At what? Building things that help people instead of hurt them. June looked up, smiled. Turns out, I like it better too. They weren't perfect. They fought about security, about risk, about how much of the old life to let go and how much to keep. June still had instincts that led him toward violence when threatened. Nia still had nightmares about gunshots and blood, but they worked through it. Therapy helped, both individual and couples. So did time. So did the conscious choice, every single day, to be better than they'd been the day before. 2 years after the immunity deal, Nia found out she was pregnant. She took the test alone in the bathroom of the clinic, hands shaking as she watched the second line appear. For a long moment, she just stared at it, overwhelmed by terror and joy in equal measure. That night, she told June over dinner, takeout from the same diner where they'd had their first date. I'm pregnant, she said. No preamble, just the truth. June froze, fork halfway to his mouth. You're pregnant. About 6 weeks. He set down the fork carefully, like he was afraid any sudden movement would shatter the moment. How do you feel? Terrified. Happy. Completely unprepared. Nia laughed, shaky. How do you feel? Same, all of it. June came around the table, knelt in front of her chair, hands on her knees. We're really doing this. Yeah, we really are. I'm going to be a terrible father. Probably, but you'll try to be better. That's what matters. He pressed his forehead to her stomach, and Nia ran her fingers through his hair, and they stayed like that until the food went cold. The pregnancy was hard. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Complications that required bed rest. Fear that something would go wrong. But they got through it together, one day at a time. June became obsessive about safety. More cameras, more locks, more security protocols. Nia let him because it made him feel like he could control something in a situation where control was an illusion. I need to know they're safe, he said one night, hands on her swollen belly. Both of you. We are safe. You made sure of it. What if I didn't? What if someone from the old life comes back? What if... Then we handle it. But we can't live our whole lives waiting for the worst to happen. Nia covered his hands with hers. Our daughter deserves better than parents who are too scared to let her live. Our daughter, June's voice cracked. We're having a daughter. We are. And she's going to be strong and stubborn and impossible, just like her parents. He laughed through tears. We're so screwed. Completely. Their daughter was born on a rainy Tuesday morning in March, 7 pounds and furious at the world. They named her Elena, after June's mother. She had Nia's eyes and June's stubborn chin and lungs that could wake the entire hospital floor. June held her for the first time and completely fell apart. Nia watched this man who'd killed people without flinching cradle their daughter like she was made of glass, tears streaming down his face, and knew they'd made the right choice. All of it. Every hard decision, every sacrifice, every moment of terror and doubt. It had all led here. "Hi, Elena," June whispered. "I'm your dad, and I'm going to do everything wrong, but I'm going to love you so much it won't matter." Nia reached out, touched his arm. "We both will." Bringing Elena home was surreal. The penthouse they'd lived in for years suddenly felt different, softer, warmer, full of possibility instead of just luxury. June installed more cameras, hired a night nurse, and barely slept for the first month because he kept checking to make sure Elena was breathing. "You need to sleep," Nia said one night, finding him in the nursery at 3 a.m., just watching their daughter sleep. "I can't. What if something happens? Then we handle it. But you standing guard all night isn't sustainable." "I know. He rubbed his face. "I keep thinking about everything that could go wrong. All the ways I could fail her." "You won't. You don't know that." "Yes, I do, because you're already here worrying about it. The people who fail are the ones who don't care enough to try." Nia took his hand. "Come to bed. She's safe. We're all safe." Slowly he relaxed. Not all at once, not completely, but day by day, week by week, he learned to trust that the world they'd built was solid enough to hold them. Life settled into a new rhythm. Nia went back to work part-time at the clinic, bringing Elena with her sometimes. June's construction company kept growing. They moved to a house in a quiet neighborhood, sold the penthouse, let go of most of the security team except Marcus, who'd become more friend than employee. The past still haunted them sometimes. June would see someone who looked like one of the Marchettis in tents. Nia would hear sirens and remember the hospital shooting. They both had scars that would never fully heal, but they also had Elena. And the clinics, and a business that built homes instead of breaking them. They had a life that was messy and imperfect and real. On Elena's first birthday, they threw a party at the house. Maya came, fully recovered and working at a new hospital. Marcus brought his wife. Lena showed up with an enormous stuffed elephant. Even Chen, the detective who'd brought down June's empire, stopped by with a card and a cautious smile. "Never thought I'd see you domesticated," Chen said, watching June try to keep Elena from eating cake with her hands. "Me neither," June admitted. "But here we are. You doing okay? No regrets?" He looked across the yard at Naya, laughing as Elena smeared frosting on everything within reach. "Not a single one." After everyone left and Elena was asleep, June and Nia sat on their back porch, exhausted and happy. "Can you believe we made it here?" Naya asked. "No, there were so many times I thought we wouldn't. But we did." "Yeah, we did." June pulled her close. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For pushing me to be better. For loving me even when I didn't deserve it." "You always deserved it. You just didn't believe it." Nia looked up at him. "And for the record, you made it pretty easy to love you. Complicated and dangerous and absolutely insane sometimes, but easy." June laughed. "I'm not sure that's a compliment." "It is, because loving someone isn't about them being perfect. It's about choosing them anyway, every day, even when it's hard." "Then I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life." "Same." They sat there under the stars, two people who'd been through hell and somehow found their way to something like peace. It wasn't the life either of them had expected. It was better, because they'd learned something most people never did. The transformation wasn't about erasing the past or pretending the darkness didn't exist. It was about choosing, every single day, to build something better, to let love be stronger than fear, to believe that people could change, even when the world said they couldn't. June had been a killer, a criminal, a man feared by everyone who knew his name. Now he was a husband, a father, a businessman trying to make the city better instead of bleeding it dry. He still had blood on his hands. That would never wash away completely. But he also had Elena's first laugh, Nia's smile across the dinner table, employees who trusted him to do right by them. He had a life built on something other than violence and control. And that life, messy and imperfect as it was, felt like redemption. Nia had lost her career, her safety, her innocence about how dark the world could be. She'd watched people she loved get hurt because of choices she made. She carried guilt that would probably never fully disappear. But she also had purpose. Clinics that served thousands of people who had nowhere else to go. A husband who'd literally rebuilt his entire life because she asked him to. A daughter who would grow up knowing her parents fought for something better and won. And together, they had something neither of them had possessed before. Hope. Real, tangible hope that tomorrow could be better than today. That the mistakes of the past didn't have to define the future. That love, complicated, difficult, sometimes painful love, could actually change the world. Years later, when Elena was old enough to ask questions, June told her the truth. Not all of it. Some things a child didn't need to know, but enough. I made a lot of mistakes, he said. Hurt people. Did things I'm not proud of. Why? Elena asked. Because I thought that was the only way to survive, to be powerful, to matter. Were you right? No, I was wrong about almost everything. June looked at Naya, who was listening from the doorway. Until I met your mom. She taught me that real power isn't about making people fear you. It's about making them better. And real strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and choosing love anyway. Elena thought about that. So you were bad, but now you're good? Not exactly. I'm still figuring it out, but I'm trying. Every day I'm trying to be better than I was. That's all anyone can do, Nia said, coming into the room. Try to be better. Choose love over fear. Build instead of destroy. And we're doing it together, June added, pulling them both close. That's the important part. Elena squirmed out of the hug, already moving on to the next thing, the way kids do. But later that night, when June tucked her in, she said something that made his chest tight. I'm glad you chose love, Dad. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. He kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and walked back to where Naya was waiting. They stood in the hallway of their home, this life they'd built from the wreckage of everything that came before, and let themselves feel it, the weight of all they'd survived, the miracle of what they'd become. They weren't perfect. Their past wasn't erased. The scars still showed. But they were alive. They were together. They were building something that mattered. And in the end, that was more than either of them had ever thought possible. That was everything.